On this episode of Motorsport recently, we look back at the FIA WEC race at Spa, the IMSA Acura Sports Car Grand Prix, the inaugural W Series race, and the Blancpain GT World Challenge Europe race, and so much more. This is Triple Crown Racing. Let's get into it. Hello everybody and welcome to this episode of Motorsport recently, and we were supposed to start at 7 o'clock and we are starting at 7:11, so only slightly late this week, unlike half an hour last week. So we are improving. So in future, just remember that this usually starts, well, circa 7 a.m. Sydney time. So joining me on the show this week is the wonderful, is Caitlin Penny commentary, so usual partners in crime, so Caitlin Penny commentary, and the wonderful Chris Whitfield.
And may I say, I love the intro.
Yes,
Jolly good.
I'm glad that finally made its
Hey.
live debut.
Hey Jack, I love the way you said the wonderful. Caitlin.
Well, Caitlin, you are wonderful. Just ignore
Thank
my
you.
my tongue twisters. So on a packed show this week, we will be, of course, covering the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship round from Mid-Ohio, the WEC race from Spa, well, very snowy WEC race from Spa, the Blancpain GT Challenge thing. Well, one of the variations of the Blancpain GT series.
Let me do that
there's
one. The Blancpain GT World Challenge Europe.
And of course, we have some NASCAR stuff for you as well, and of course some of your usual segments as well, such as everyone's favorite Spaniard segment, Nando Watch, and of course your miscellaneous stories and points that we will have missed and will be covering at the end of the show. Also, I should mention that only 2 new correspondents this week will be making their writing debut. We wanted it to be 3, but that didn't quite go to plan. So we do actually have the writing debuts of 2 new correspondents, and hopefully we will see them on the show in the near future. Right. Should we get into the news then?
Let's do it.
All right, Chris, do you want to start us off with IMSA?
We shall. The 4th round of the IMSA WeatherTech Championship began on a sunny Sunday afternoon in Lexington, Ohio, when the Mazda of Oliver Jarvis and the Acura of Elio Castroneves led the field away for the Acura Sports Car Grand Prix of Mid-Ohio. The action began almost immediately when Elio Castroneves and Joao Barbosa came to contact in the S's, damaging the right side of Castroneves' Acura and the left rear corner of Barbosa's Cadillac. Further back on the very same lap, Bill Oberlin's race ended when his Turner BMW made hard contact with the LMP2 car of Cameron Castles, turning the Performance Tech Orica 07 around. The Mazdas proved their strength early, setting fast lap after fast lap, but Dane Cameron never let Ollie Jarvis get away that easily. After the first round of pit stops, Cameron handed over to Juan Pablo Montoya. Montoya then got caught in traffic, and Jarvis, who lost the lead in the round of pit stops due to the patented Penske overcut, powered by the Penske Acura and took the lead back in traffic. In the first hour, Tommy Milner's Corvette suddenly slowed on the pit straight, the cause being a broken left rear axle. They did continue, but wound up 8th in class. The racing was intense in all of the categories, and there was action everywhere. was basically where to look. The number 66 Ford lost the left rear taillight cluster in the approach to the uphill S's. The Compass Racing McLaren in its debut had a couple of moments. Christina Nielsen got booted off into the gravel by the number 8 Audi, and the number 38 Orica slowed multiple times with various mechanical issues. One of the highlights, however, was Nick Tandy using his stock car experience to muscle by Tom Blomqvist's BMW in the keyhole in what was simply a scintillating or an overtaking move. With half an hour to go, the first and only full course yellow of the race was thrown when the left front suspension collapsed on Colin Brown's Nissan, sending it meandering into the gravel trap. This set up a 20-minute shootout to decide it all. Montoya pulled away from Tristan Nunez and proved too strong for the Mazda, who had him in his crosshair after being overcut again on the final pit stop. Montoya held off Nunez to score the second straight victory for Acura at Mid-Ohio. In the LMP2 class, the race was won by Matt McMurray and Eric Lux in the PR1 Matheson Racing Orica 07 by the extremely close margin of 33 laps. This actually marks the third different winner in the LMP2 category in 2019. In GTLM, it was another intense battle, ultimately claimed by the number 912 Porsche of Earl Bamber and Lawrence Vantor. Second was the number 3 Corvette of Antonio Garcia and Jan Magnussen, and third was the second Porsche, number 911 of Dale Tandy, as I have now dubbed him, and Patrick Pile, who overcame a drive-through penalty for jumping the initial start. In GTD, it was an intense final stanza between the number 14 Aim Vassar Sullivan Lexus RCF GT3 of Jack Hawksworth and the number 86 Meyershank Racing Acura NSX GT3 of Super Mario Farnbacher. They traded fast laps and fought nose to tail for the final 15 minutes, ultimately ending with Hawksworth holding off Farnbacher to score the victory. Third place went to the Paul Miller Racing Lamborghini Huracan GT3 of Ryan Hardwick and Brian Sellers. The next race for the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship will be on the streets of Belle Isle in Detroit for the Chevy Belle Isle Grand Prix in General Motors' backyard.
Well, that was actually, I'd say that was quite an exciting race.
I'd recommend watching it if you haven't.
Absolutely, an extremely exciting race, especially the end. That was something that really stood out to me, how everything kicked off in the final stages. I think partly because of the safety car, but also you had that fantastic race near the end with Farnbacher and the Lexus, and then as well the issue with the yellow flag incident. And one thing I'm surprised about actually is that the 31 got pinged for overtaking under safety cars. The Mazda didn't, so they must have gone through right before the yellow flag zone.
I believe they did. It was actually Nazar that I should have mentioned that, but yeah, Nazar actually Nazar got by before the after the yellow flag zone, whereas Bomarito got through before.
I will also say though, it was another bitterly disappointing race from Mazda.
How so? They finished second and third.
They didn't win though. That's the problem.
Yeah, I think there'll be a degree of disappointment to it because they absolutely could have won the race. There were a couple of issues, especially for the number 55, but I wouldn't say bitterly disappointing. Second and third, let's face it, it's nothing to be sniffed at.
It is second
It's a double
place,
podium.
though. It is second place, and as you say, Caitlin really wants to finish second.
Of course.
And
then
also, It's a double. I
Oh
still.
yeah,
Sir, go ahead.
apologies. I will also say that this race proved that windscreens are overrated.
What do you mean, sorry?
Windscreens are overrated
Do you mean wing mirrors?
because the Mercedes does not need a windscreen, apparently.
Uh,
I missed that.
I don't know what you're talking about. Sorry. What was that?
And when the Merc, well, we were talking about this earlier, clobbered the back of the JDC Miller Cadillac.
The windscreen was fine, I think.
Well, the bonnet flew up and then covered the windscreen.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't quite.
Well, basically, you would just look through the air scoop.
Of
Very
course.
small.
Just look out through the air intake. That's what that's there for.
What you do
Anyway.
mean is that Jeroen Blikkemolen doesn't need to see where he's going. But yeah.
Anyway,
He's fine.
windows are overrated then. C is overrated. Anyway, more to say from this race. Any more takeaways?
I'm actually. You may notice on the top 3 that Cadillac was nowhere to be found.
Very
Yes!
true. Very true.
The reason being, Cadillac doesn't really like this type of track. As I've said before, they were really down on straight line pace. Like, especially when the Mazda and the Cadillacs were racing each other. Basically down the long back straight, the Mazda and the Acura would just blow by.
Hey Chris.
Hey
Chris, you can't be a Kia Cadillac. It does nothing. Sorry.
Well,
just a
you
little joke.
can BOP a Cadillac, but you can BOP a Cadillac just wrong.
Yeah, Cadillac.
But I have to say,
Sorry.
I genuinely enjoyed that.
Cadillac
That's a good
struggling.
race.
It made for a really, really good race between the other manufacturers, and yeah, I must say it was the first IMSA race in a long time that I've genuinely been really, really into. And that move, I think my highlight of the race, if we're picking highlights from the race, that move, Nick Tandy, oh my goodness. Like, I've seen that done in karting before and in sim racing. I didn't expect to see it in real life. Just fantastic.
You've done it.
Yeah, it's
You've
kind of...
done that before. You've muscled someone out of the way.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. It's the kind of thing you do a lot in karting, and it's a lot of fun to do. But when it comes to real, you know, those GTE cars, they are, or GTR, yeah, sorry, they're not cheap, and they can be, I mean, yeah, less like, they're not fragile when it comes to like single-seater sense, but they are fragile. You know, they you can't normally do things like that. As we saw earlier, there was a GTD Porsche who got clobbered in a very similar way, and ended up having bits torn out of it. But whatever the case, yeah, just fantastic move, very well
Wasn't that the
judged.
number 9 car?
I don't think
Wasn't that
so.
the 9 car?
Whatever
the,
the red GTD Porsche is, sorry. I
Oh
wouldn't know.
yes, the lumberjack.
Stop faffing about.
Oh, just
Well done,
got
Jack.
that. Oh.
Anyway, there are a couple of people I want to say hello to who are checking in. First of all, we have Will Holtz who's checking in with "Hey Kids," saying, "Sorry, I should explain. Will Holtz competing in the Cup Cuts of North America. He's on Instagram. Go check him out. Amazing driver with a bright future. Someone else with a bright future who's also checking in. YT Freya 20. So Freya Edwards, she's a writer for us. Sorry, as I said, bright future. If you read motorsport.com in the future, you'll see every article written by Freya Edwards. Anyway, hello, guys, and hello, anyone else is checking in. I see you two in the chat as well. Said head 2. That's Chris Whitfield and Caitlin Penny commentary in the chat. Guess who? Oh yes, and Will Holtz, national champion.
Oh, well done, Will. Fantastic.
Congratulations!
If you remember, we actually had him on the show a few weeks ago. We skipped a couple of weeks, so that was probably about a month ago. Should we move on?
Okay then.
Right, moving on to WEC. Round 7 of the 2018-2019 FIA World Endurance Championship took place in a crazy... Words are not working. In crazy weather around Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps over the course of 5 hours and 50 minutes as the red flag took off the last 10 minutes. Pole position went to the number 7 Toyota Gazoo Racing Toyota TSO50 hybrid of Mike Conway, Kamui Kobayashi, and Jose Maria Lopez, and they led for the opening few laps. After only 5 minutes, sun turned to snow, and the entire field was forced into the pits. Now, in terms of the weather, I thought that was, if you've known me for long enough, I thought that having snow in a race was something that only happened in our Daytona round of an LMP2 championship we did on Project Cars 2 ages ago. Imagine my surprise when I saw it happening in real life. Anyway, yeah, sun turning to snow. That paints a very interesting mental picture of the sun actually turning into a massive snowflake. S&P Racing and their AER-BR01's unnecessarily long name pitted a lap earlier than the LMP opposition, and the number 11 car of Stoffel, being driven by Stoffel Van Dorn at the time, and of course he was joined by Vitaly Petrov and Michaela Loshin, emerged in the lead when Toyota pitted both of their cars. The number 8 experiencing a 20-second delay and its stop and falling to 4th. Is that just... Anyway, one of the two. On wet tyres, Conway was able to quickly catch and pass Van Dorn. One of many safety cars enabled Sebastian Buemi and the number 8 car to close back in. Yes, so it would have been the number 8. Only to lose out again due to radio issues, meaning they pitted under green rather than safety car, like their teammates. Buemi, however, was able to move back to second place in the third hour. As Fred Nando Alonso, now aboard the number 8, was around 50 seconds when the number 7 was forced to pit with a sensor issue and lost 4 laps. So yes, that wasn't a typo before. Props to Smoking Puppy. Not props to me. This gave the number 11 car second again, and they had lost all their lowest 4 gears and lost enough pace in the second half of the race that Taurus Laurent,
Nathaniel Berton.
Yes, Nathaniel Berton and Gustavo Menezes passed the number 3 Rebellion Gibbs and R13. Again, the long LMP1 names. I am caught in a complete tongue twister today, as I almost said LMP long. Victory.
LMP long.
LMP long. That of course possibly referring to the Nissan GT-R LM. That would classify as an LMP long. I would guess. So anyway, yes, victory went to the number 3. Victory. I am completely confused right now.
Are you okay, Jack?
Maybe having a stroke.
Have you had breakfast?
You had your porridge yet?
No, I haven't had my porridge. That's why I'm not Valtteri Bottasing as I probably should be. So yes. Anyway,
you're Vettling this.
Fernando won, followed by Sebastian Buemi. Well, no, they're in the same car. Sebastian Buemi and Kazuki Nakajima.
This is going well.
Did that. And then it was a good result for SMP. In LMP2, the top 4 cars in the race rotated frequently throughout. And heading into what should have been the final stint for them, Dragon Speed led with Pastor Maldonado at the wheel, and on the Michelin tyres superior to the Dunlops in the wet. However, their Roberto Gonzalez, was a minute short on drive time, and the race had run its full distance, and the team would have been forced to pit. Would have inherited the win, ended up fourth as podium finishes G-Drive Racing and Signatech Alpine Matmut, that's a thing, would have to pit again in their rebadged Oricas. Thank you for acknowledging the rebadged Oricas. Jackie Chan, DC Racing's number 38, missed out on the podium, but would have been leading anyway had it not been for a spin from Hopin Tung, which cost 50 seconds. Signatech Alpine Matmut, again, and their drivers Andre Negrão, Nico Lapierre, and Pierre Thibret, French boy. I almost just said French. Very good.
French. I like
Pierre Thibret from France.
Lead over... Of course, that would be with a lisp. Lead over Tung, Gabriel Aubry, and Stéphane Richelme, heading into the season finale at Le Mans. In LMGT Pro, every manufacturer was strong at some point. Andy Priaulx and Harry Ticknell took pole for Ford, but Aston Martin Racing were the first team to pit early on. Martin and Alex Lynn, the lead in the number 97 Porsche. In the number 97. Porsche and BMW both led before Lynn got the car to the front for a second time in the third hour, pulling a sensational move on Richard Lietz in the number 91 Porsche around the outside of Blancpain. As pit stop cycled through in the fifth hour, Martin was able to emerge in the front again, and due to a long safety car, was able to stretch his rule to the end of the race. James Calado in the number 51 AF Corsa Ferrari was less than a second behind when the red flags flew, and Aston Martin held on for their second win for the new Aston Martin Vantage, which is quite an achievement. Porsche ended up third and fourth on the road, which became third and eighth post-race due to a time penalty for podium finishing Lietz and Jimmy Bruni. The Stuttgart Mark were able to take the manufacturer's title, and their two cars are the only ones left in the drivers' contention, with Kevin Estre and Michael Christensen 36 points in front. LMGT YAM honours went to Dempsey Proton Racing, and the number 77 of Christian Reed,
Ricardo Pera, and Matt Campbell.
Despite losing all of their points from the first 4 rounds, the crew is still one of 5 left in the title contention. Project One Racing hold a 23-point lead heading into Le Mans, with Spirit of Race only 3 ahead of TS Sport for second and third. The top 3 in LMP1 look like this. Fernando Alonso, Kazuki Nakajima, and Sebastian Buemi took victory in the number 8 car, followed by the number 3 car of LeBron, Berton, and Menezes, and the number 11 car of Mikel Oloshin, Vitaly Petrov, and Stoffel Van Dorn. In LMP2, it looks like this. Gonzalez, Maldonado, and Davidson took LMP2 honours in the number 31 Dragon Speed car, followed by the 26 car of Vern Rusinov and Vern Utert. Thank you again. And in third place, it was number 36 car of Lapierre, Negrão, and Thibret.
It should be noted, by the way, that even though the number 26 Oris actually finished in second place, the number 36 Signatech Alpine actually has the has second place points because the Oris is ineligible to run for the championship in WEC. So basically, what's happened is the full-time, because they're not full-time and they finished second, they've got 0 points. They're ineligible. So Signatech has second place points.
Anyway, yes, so Thierry from France. GT
France. Like
GT Pro honours went to number 97 car of Lynn and Martin. In second, it was the 51 car of James Calado and Alessandro Pierre Guidi. And the third place honours went to the 92 car of Christensen and Estro. In GT-AM, it was the number 77 car of... Yes, that is the Dempsey Proton car. Yes, it's the Dempsey Proton car. Followed by the number 90 car and the 61 car. And I'm going to go and have a stroke now. that article was written by SRA Smoking Puppy. So thank you to him. And I'm gonna go and untwist my tongue.
Yeah.
Before that, one of our favorite segments coming up now, and this is of course talking about the exploits of the world's favorite Spaniard. For
He's got that sauce to win the Triple Crown. St. James, babe.
yes, it is of course time for Nando Watch, and week of the year, Fernando Alonso has of course been busy. Coming out this week, apparently Fernando Alonso has a secret project that he's working on, but he can't tell us about it.
Oh!
Spain's soy motor, which I should explain is not a company filled with soy boys, but actually is a Spanish show. Translates roughly in English to "I am car," which is
I am car.
car. Anyway, so old Spain soy motor. I am a strategist, of course. Fernando Alonso, of course, being a very, very smart man, being the best racing driver to ever have lived. And he says, I have Ed, just like me, I have several ideas in my head, but never put them into actual reality. A project. But until everything is finalized, everything is talked through, I prefer to continue to be quiet about it. Once everything is confirmed, I will be able to announce it to all. So, what could this secret project that Fernando Alonso is actually be? Well, some have theorized that this is actually referring to him doing the Dakar Rally, and others have theorized that that it could be a full-time IndyCar drive for next season. So, guys, what do you think it could be?
Full-time IndyCar, undoubtedly.
Full-time IndyCar?
Yep. I
Is
think
that
think he's
wishful
coming up-
thinking? Is that wishful thinking, or is that what you
I
actually
think he's
think?
coming up with an underwear line with Kamoa.
Not gonna lie, I actually would buy that.
Or a brand of curries that's sold only in Tesco's in the north.
Nah, I think he's going to be absolutely full-time IndyCar next year. I think that he's absolutely got that thirst to win the Triple Crown, as the jingle says, and I think he's going to be driving IndyCars until he gets it.
Of course, the jingle made beautifully by Caitlin.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. What I think this secret project could be.
In all seriousness, though, I think it I think it actually might be both.
Why is
A
it
Dakar and a Dakar, maybe a World Rally Championship outing.
I said you wouldn't count that out, yeah.
Why is a deodorant line coming to mind?
Ooh.
Fred Nando's special deodorant.
I mean, you gotta master...
Now
You gotta master the smell
now
of
you
those.
can smell like Kamoa.
That's another thing that I would actually buy.
You've got to master smell of those burnt engines somehow. I mean...
Yes.
GP2 cologne.
Yes!
It's too cologne.
Or
I need to.
or-
Kamoa
Fernando is faster than you.
Number 2.
Fernando is faster than you laxatives.
Oh god.
There. We've solved it. Sponsored by Kamoa.
Fernando is faster than you, but not as fast as the
He's going to be launching a new fast food restaurant. He's going to call it Fernando's.
That was, yes, I was actually thinking that as well. I thought it was a stupid idea.
Well, isn't there all? Is it? Well, there's also a fast food place that sells chicken called Nando's. So I guess it's a tie-in with that.
That's the joke, Chris.
Stomach's
That's the
rumbling
joke.
now. Chris, you're making me hungry, and I haven't had breakfast, which will explain the fact. Which should explain the fact that my tongue has been in knots seemingly all day. Anyway, should we move on?
Yes.
Right. Who would like to tell us about the Blancpain GT World Challenge Europe?
Why don't you do it, Caitlin?
Okay, let me just get the document up. I think I've got it here. Jolly good. Yeah. So the Blancpain GT World Challenge Europe. I have seen it. I promise. Right, there we go, found the actual segment. The 2019 Blancpain GT World Challenge Europe saw its first and second ever race last weekend at Brands Hatch, with a field of 26 cars taking the green light in race 1. Oh, sorry, never mind. The top 10 starts after qualifying were the Black Falcon number 4, followed by the Grasser Racing Lamborghini number 63, and behind them was the 89 ACA ASP Mercedes and the 563 Orange 1 FFF Racing Team Lamborghini. Behind them, there was the highest starting Audi run by Attempto Racing number 66, and next to them was the 88 ACA ASP Mercedes, followed again by the number 2 Audi. No, sorry, by 2 Audis. Oh, golly. The first was the Attempto Racing 55, and the first WT Audi, and then the number 1 car. And rounding off the top 10 was the Aston Martin run by Motorsport and the 25 Sandlock Racing Audi. The scene was set for an exciting race, and we certainly got one. The race went green, and Lucas Stoltz got the better start and beat Mirko Bortolotti into turn 1. Behind them, all hell broke loose, as Andrea Caldarelli tried to cut across the traffic to get the turn 1 apex, but instead found Stein's Schotthorst Audi that was subsequently sent into a spin. The Santalock Audi took avoiding action running through the gravel as a result, but as the Attempto Racing Audi got stuck in the gravel, the number 5 Audi of Kim Louis Schramm cannoned into the side of Schotthorst, and both cars were out of the race as well. As a result, Caldarelli got a 1-minute stop go for the incident, and he then retired the car because he was a lap down, and the 52 Ferrari run by AF Corsa crashed from the lead of Pro-Am at Sterling's. He became the 4th retirement at the pit window. The 4th retirement at the pit window, full stop would be nice there. Nothing really happened, except Nico Bastian in the ACA ASP had an amazing pit stop, and at the end of the cycle was leading the race. In the end, the race was won by the ACA ASP number 89 car, which concluded race 1. Incidentally, a silver ranked car, not a Pro-Am, but a silver class car. The results of race 1 were the number 89 of Nico Bastian and Thomas Neubauer, followed by Lucas Stoltz and Mario Engel in the number 4, and then the 63 of Mirko Bortolotti and Christian Engelhardt. That article, I believe, was written on her debut with Triple Crown Racing by Charlotte De Forsini. So thank you for that, Charlotte.
Yes.
Yay, Charlotte!
Debut, and hope to have her on the show very soon.
I think she's got a very bright future.
Race 2 began and immediately became a slugfest. Marcus Winkelhock's Sandlock Audi wound up in the gravel trap at Paddock Hill after contact from Tom Gamble. Shards of carbon fibre went flying into the cars behind, causing a puncture for one of the cars further back, if I remember correctly. Later on, Phil Keane tangled with Christian Engelhardt's GRT Grasser Racing Lamborghinis. Then came the big incident in form of a 7-car pileup, triggered by the number 333 Rinaldi Ferrari, which turned the Phoenix Racing Audi of Frederick Vervisch, collecting 5 other cars. On the cycle of pit stops, the number 4 Black Falcon Mercedes AMG GT3 emerged in front. The number 62 Motorsport Aston Martin put 2 wheels off into the gravel bed at Paddock Hill. The number 88 ACA ASP Mercedes pulled off with a mechanical failure, as its teammate, the number 90, suffered a left front puncture. Both Kelvin van der Linde and the Aston Martin of Ricky Collard had a little argy-bargy, as the number 90 AKA ASP Mercedes finally came to a smoky end. In the end, it was Maru Engel and Lucas Stoltz who took the race 2 victory in the number 4, followed by the 563 of Andrea Caldarelli and Marco Mappelli, and the number 55 of Stein Schotthorst and who's Foster?
Nick Foster.
Nick Foster, thank you very much. Any other thoughts on Blancpain, you guys?
Are there any French drivers in it?
There were some French drivers, a lot of Germans, some Italians, Chinese, basically from all over the world except the United States and Canada. But I have to say, I watched the highlights, which was why I was actually working on on race 2 in progress.
I think the most French-sounding name ever is in the Blancpain GT World Challenge Europe. Jean-Luc Bobalik. Can you get more French than that?
Well, I was supposed to be watching Talladega Nights last night, and the internet was too slow. But I believe the French driver is Jean Girard.
Oh,
Jean
nice.
Girard.
Hopefully, I'll get to watch that at a later date. I'm still disappointed that I didn't get to watch it last night. See the Blancpain GT Europe race, so I can't really contribute much to this, but sounds like it would have been an exciting race for sure.
Chris, you know it's too late to finish the article now, don't you?
Chris is like the kid that completes the assignment in the class it's due. Now,
Well, yeah.
if one of
I
my
did that once.
real life
I did that once in college, but
if one of my real life
5
friends,
minutes- 5 minutes before the end.
Nice.
my friends are watching now, you know exactly who you are. And I just looked at the chat there. Jonas Milving is checking in with ... Being confused by the brilliance that the show is. Yes, is that it for Blancpain GT Europe?
Believe
It
so.
is.
Right, Chris, would you like to tell us about NASCAR?
I'd be happy to. Last week, was the NASCAR Monster Energy Cup Series weekend at Dover, Delaware. The week before, NASCAR decided that due to the wildly unpopular multi-car qualifying, that the procedure would go back to single-car qualifying with immediate effect. Chase Elliott had grabbed the pole with his teammate William Byron setting new track records. In Xfinity, the Cole Custer...
You okay, Chris?
Yes. In the
Sometimes
Xfinity
easy.
race, Cole Custer won and started on the winner from Talladega.
It's okay, take your time.
It's alright.
The winner from Talladega?
The winner from Talladega, Cole Custer, I think, started on the winner from the September race at Dover. Won the pole with Justin Allgaier on the front row, and the truck's Brett Moffitt started on the pole next to Johnny Sauter. In the Cup race, they ran 400 laps with only the stage cautions with little or no caution flags. Stage 1 was won by Joey Logano, who eventually fell back. Stage 2 was won by Martin Truex with his first stage win of the season. He would go on to win the race, winning both Monday races at Dover. Due to a rain delay, they actually ran on the Monday, of course. So technically it is this week. And Truex actually holds the record now of 2 victories at races that were held at Dover on Mondays. The other one coming in 2007, his first career victory. In the Xfinity Series, Cole Custer won the first stage of the event, followed by then Christopher Bell took the green and checkered flag in stage 2, and the win in the black and white checkered flags to end the race.
Hooray!
In the Truck Series, stage 1 winner was Brett Moffitt, and then Johnny Sauter took the wins in stage 2 and stage 3. But what the writer had noticed throughout all of these was the stage 2 winner went on to win the event in all 3 races of the season. And I honestly thought that I was kind of hoping that Alex Bowman would make a comeback in those final laps, but he just didn't, unfortunately. But good for Martin Truex. Believe this is his second win of the season. Please correct me in the comments. Please correct me in chat if I'm. Please correct me in chat if I've screwed that up. But the next race is Kansas Speedway.
Nice.
For the
yeah.
for the series, for the 3 series.
I'm just checking up on results so far.
Jack is researching in real time.
In real time, yes.
Jolly good.
How many people
Alright,
here
what are we
know
up
that
to?
this is live?
Actually live, and you don't need me to actually tell you that we're live for once. So Martin Truex Jr. has won. He won the Toyota Owners 400 at
Richmond.
that was at Richmond.
Was he in a
And
Toyota?
He is in a Toyota.
Good.
He's in the number
And
19 Toyota.
that was his second race win of the year. Martin Truex winning the Gander RV 400. This weekend, obviously, Kansas Motor Speedway. And would you like to know who's sitting on the pole?
I think we should do that next week.
Do that next week? Okay, we'll keep you guessing for a week. Bring it up. Anyway, right.
There was also a.
Oh, what else do we have?
Sorry.
Shall we move on to the next thing?
Yes, we should move on to the next thing. And this is actually quite important, historically, in terms of racing. It was the first ever round of the controversial W Series. And who would like to tell us about that? Chris, would you like to tell us about that?
I shall. The inaugural round of the W Series was held at Hockenheim, and British driver Jamie Chadwick from the British GT Championship was on the pole for the first event. Joining her on the front row was Fabian Volvend, and just behind her was Sarah Moore in third spot. As the lights went out for the historic first race, and by the way, the commentator kept saying historic and prompted a drinking game, Chadwick got the best start and easily pulled a gap by turn 4. Turn 1 was completely clear with no incidents and just fair equal racing. This was until the front-running car, number 55 of Jamie Chadwick, reached the hairpin at turn 6 and went deep on the brakes and ended up locking up and going wide. Just as she recovered from the slight slip-up and ended up in second, but it wasn't the drama at the end of the drama at the hairpin. As Sarah Moore took the lead, it was Finnish driver Emma Kymäläinen who found a wet patch going into turn 6 and ended up late braking, making it too late to save Megan Gilkis.
I thought it was the
Kymäläinen
other way
completely...
round. Sorry, I thought it was the other way round. I thought that Kymäläinen got
Strike.
clobbered by Megan.
Strike that, reverse it.
Okay.
Bothered.
Yes. Kymäläinen, or Gilkis, completely T-boned into the Finn Canadian, making both of them run off into the runoff area, with damage to both cars after heavy contact. This eliminated both. The incident led to a safety car, making it easy for Chadwick to get back up into the place she belonged. Now, as the safety car entered the pit lane, it didn't take long for Chadwick to overtake Alice Powell going into turn 6. Despite locking up, she still managed to get the move done. The star of the race was Chadwick, and despite Alice Powell slowly closing in on her lap by lap, she kept her composure and was able to pull an even bigger gap from on the experienced Powell. The 30-minute race gave us many overtakes and lunges from many of the drivers, and there were certainly some great battles out on track. During the second part of the race, Marta Garcia was giving a great fight to second-place Powell. Despite being the youngest on the grid at being only 18, but showed great performance and true potential as one of the big names for all the other drivers to watch out for. Many people relating her to the female Max Verstappen, being young, aggressive, and professional on and off the track. Italian hero Vicky Piria had an interesting incident. Turn 6 really is where all the action happened, as she locked up, spun her car around, and she was facing the wrong way. As any driver would, she drove onto the grass after oncoming cars had passed her. As she got away back onto the track, she ran over the sign located around the track marking one's braking. Basically, she ran over a braking marker. This incident didn't damage the car, but the Italian's race was ruined. After the incident, she dropped into 15th, which is not where she wanted to be. Many other overtakes happened throughout the race and made it close. That made it close racing. Having the same cars throughout the grid gave us close racing between the 18 drivers up and down the grid. However, at the end, it was Jamie Chadwick who took the checkered flag in the first ever W Series event. After the race, she said she may have had a small gearbox issue, which made her race a lot tougher, but true racer that she is cake out and pushed on until she's able to breathe after crossing the finish line, knowing what a tremendous race she had driven.
Now, cakes aside,
a very well done effort as well for Alice Powell and Marta Garcia, who came home second and third to celebrate with Jamie on the first podium of this new series of Motorsport. Now, it should also be noted that, what was the name of the Japanese girl? The one that started at the back of the grid.
and more real-time researching.
Okay, got it. That was Miki.
We should also explain that Caitlin's mic will occasionally explode.
Oh, sorry.
So
that was Yuki Koyama. Can you hear me?
Yuki Koyama, by the way, was actually, she started at the back of the grid and wound up 7th, and was actually turning laps faster than the race lead, than the top 3. So I'm really impressed with her, result. Like,
So anyway,
she may have finished 7th, but she ran a heck of a race.
our top 3 again. Chris, would you like to tell us the top 3 again?
The top 3 are Jamie Chadwick, Alice Powell, and Marta Garcia. And the next round is at Zolder.
So, as everyone knows, there was a lot of controversy about this series, especially in the lead up to it. Some people liked the idea, some people didn't like the idea, but now that the first race has happened, what's the general opinion?
I'm not sure. I really don't know what to make of it. Because the main problem that people are saying is that, you know, racing's always been a sport where men and women can compete on an equal playing field, you know, at an equal level. And yeah, that works sometimes. You know, there are females near or at, I mean, I wouldn't say the top level of motorsport because there hasn't been one in Formula 1 for years, but, you know, there are females competing at a very high level. The problem I see is that, and I say this with all due respect because I am a female myself, and, you know, I have all respect for females in motorsport. On average, females aren't going to be as competitive as males. That is on average, not everyone. And you see, that's why in other sports we do have segregation. You know, that's why we do have a women's league and a male's league. So I can see exactly why we would want one in motorsport, and I can also see why we wouldn't want one, and why people see it as segregation. I know my friend Charlie Martin really hates it, and she wrote she actually wrote an article about it and about how she felt it was sexist. But yeah, it's just, I don't really know what to make of it myself, and I think we've just got to watch the racing and enjoy it, really. Yeah.
All right then, Chris, what do you think?
I'm still of the opinion that it's segregation on wheels, but it was a genuinely good race though, and I'll probably watch Zolder.
I can't really comment on the racing because I didn't see it because it was on pretty much exclusively Eurosport here, and it wasn't at the most favorable time, I don't think. But if I can find highlights somewhere, I'll definitely watch it, and if it impresses me, I'll definitely be open to watching more. But yeah, as you said, it is kind of segregation, but I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see where this series goes.
I mean, that is the point of it. It's supposed to be segregation.
So, shall we move on then?
Okay.
All right. So now it is time for all the stories that we haven't covered because they wouldn't necessarily need the longest article. And this is, of course, a segment that has been around from pretty much the very start. And it is now time for... All right, it is now, of course, time for miscellaneous stories and points that we've missed, and yes,
Therefore, covering now TM Bing.
TM Bing, yes. Jump into it then. All right, so our first story of the day is that Nick de Vries is no longer associated with McLaren. of course, he was the former the former sim driver for McLaren, but apparently hasn't been involved with the team since last year, despite being listed on the McLaren young driver list on their website and stuff. So that's a bit strange.
That may be
Don't
partly
really know
because
what's going
McLaren ran that competition to find a new sim driver, actually from the world of sim racing. Rudy Van Buren won that one, of course, who is someone I actually know. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, it's a bit of a shame for Nick de Vries because he is very, very good. And again, as I keep bringing up, and I really hope he does well this year because he was my pick for the championship of Formula 2, and I think he's currently running 4th in that. So, you know, he's still very much in the game, and we'll see. But yeah, that is a bit of a shame.
It's just mainly strange. So up until recently this came out, but he'd been listed on the website as being part of McLaren, but apparently hadn't even into this year, but apparently hadn't been involved with the team since late last year, which is quite peculiar actually. Now our second story of the day is kind of a MotoGP DTM crossover story. So
Yes. It involves MotoGP rider Andrea Dovizioso, who will be driving for WRT Audi Sport at the DTM round at Misano, because Pietro Fittipaldi is, I believe, the reserve driver for Haas
yes, that's
in
correct.
Formula 1,
Very true.
and they're racing in Canada that weekend. So, unless they perfect the art of human cloning between now and that weekend, Dovizioso will be in the car, and I'd like to actually see how he gets on in DTM, because
It's not the it certainly isn't the first time that motorcycle riders have crossed over into car racing. I can think of a very recent example where one of them actually, I don't remember who it was, but one of them actually drove in the Audi R8 Cup.
Well,
last.
okay, so the most famous or recent times that I can remember were, of course, we had Valentino Rossi came over to GT racing and drove a McLaren for a little bit. We also had Jorge Lorenzo tested a Formula 1 Mercedes. But more famously, it did tend to happen quite a bit more in the past. Of course, we had John Surtees came from motorbike racing, won several championships in motorbike racing, then came to Formula 1 and won the championship in 1964. And alongside that, we did also used to have other motorcycle racers who used to race in Formula 1 as well. Mike Hailwood was quite a famous one there. He scored a couple of podiums in F1. So, yeah, it does happen, and it'll be interesting to see how Dovizioso gets on.
And
We
I
see
believe
Fernando
also
Alonso on a bike.
oh nay.
Potentially.
Don't give
who
him
knows?
any ideas. Don't give him any ideas. Also, I believe Scott Russell ran a he ran the 2011 Rolex 24 in a Daytona prototype. Now, Russell, for those that don't know, was a former winner of the Daytona 200, the motorcycle race that's held at Daytona International Speedway. And I believe he also ran in what is now MotoGP in Grand Prix motorcycles back in the 80s and 90s. He actually ran in the Rolex 24 in a Coyote powered by a Chevy engine, and actually did pretty well.
Anyway, moving on to some well, to what I'd say most Formula One fans regard as some sad news. Caitlin, would you like to tell us about that?
Since
I
you wrote it.
Did I? Oh yes, of course I did. Sorry, I was gonna say what the heck. Okay, so the Brazilian Grand Prix will move from Interlagos to Rio de Janeiro for 2012. Adding to that, Chase Carey has said that 2 current events, not necessarily including Brazil, will be dropped in place of Hanoi and quite possibly Zandvoort. Unfortunately, I don't think. Well, no. Fortunately, I don't think Zandvoort's F1 ready because I do not want them to run at Zandvoort. The thing that confuses me about Brazil is that one of the we've expected for a while that the Brazilian Grand Prix is going to be moved or either moved or dropped completely, mainly because of the crime rate in the local area. We've had quite a couple of occasions, quite a few occasions where, for example, mechanics have been held at gunpoint and robbed. And, of course, that needed to end. And a lot of people were expecting the Brazilian Grand Prix to move away from Sao Paulo. But Rio de Janeiro isn't much better.
Apparently, there's not even a track ready. So they have to build a track in, like... I was watching FP1. I don't know exactly when they said it would be held, but they said... But I think David Cross said the track would have to be ready in 7 months in order for them to run there.
They can't do that. Honestly, this is the problem with politicians saying there's going to be, like, politicians trying to get into motorsport. President Jair Bolsonaro has bigger issues that he needs to deal with. For instance, his government is not well liked. It's a fascist government. It's an illegitimate fascist government. And the fact that he wants to move the Brazilian Grand Prix from Interlagos to a track that isn't even built and certified yet is just A, delusional, and B, a pipe dream that will never happen. You can't build a circuit and certify it to FIA specifications, to grade 1 specifications, may I add, in 7 months. The Brazilian Grand Prix will probably stay at Interlagos at least in 2020, but, like, beyond that, I think he's just basically, I think he's basically either jumped the gun on this, or is just talking out of his backside, because President Bolsonaro is very scandal-ridden at the moment, and any Brazilians that are watching this can attest to this. He's very scandal-ridden, and borders on fascism, but at the same time, like, he's just basically talking out of his backside on this, and
Well, by the sounds of it now, because of that, we are off the air in Brazil now.
So, I can't comment on the political side of things because I don't know enough about that. But what I can comment on and tell you about is the proposed circuit. So, back in the 1980s, there was a circuit that Formula One ran on with a fantastic name. It was known as Hakkarapaggua, and that was held.
It was beautiful.
Of course, it was held at the. It was held in Rio de Janeiro, and then it was actually removed and broken up for an Olympic stadium. So there was an Olympic stadium built there instead.
And actually, before that as well, Hakkarapaggua. Did I pronounce Hakkarapaggua?
Well done.
Actually ran the kart series back from 1996 to 2000 on a very odd but very fun oval that was actually shaped like a trapezoid.
Yes.
And it was a great race. Like, basically they just took the infield and ran on the oval.
So anyway,
like, put an oval around it.
Yeah. So anyway, The proposed circuit will be built on the same site as the old Hakurapagua circuit. It will be completely different. The layout will be unrecognizable. I have seen the layout. It's very, very flowy. It may be about the 5th attempt that Tilk has had at replicating the Suzuka S's at the start of the circuit, and I don't really like that. You know, recycling track parts. It's like he's run out of ideas. But whatever the case,
He ran out of ideas in the first circuit he designed.
Yes.
Let's be honest.
But anyway, it's unnecessarily flowy. Although apart from that, does look like it could be an interesting circuit in places. It really depends on how it's done and if it's done. And yeah, we'll have to see. I must say, I think it's more likely than Zandvoort for next season.
Well, it actually has been confirmed, apparently.
Yes.
From what source?
Pretty much all
assuming
sources. It's definitely
all sources have it.
yeah, it's being confirmed, much more confirmed than Zandvoort. I think people are really, I think people are taking the Zandvoort story too literally too soon. But yeah, whatever the case, it wouldn't have been confirmed in that way if it wasn't doable. It's going to be tricky, but I have seen tracks built this quickly in the past. Kota was actually built pretty quickly.
Yeah, and look what it is. It's basically dreadful.
I like Kota. So
It's okay as a track, but in terms of the Brazilian Grand Prix thing, it has been confirmed. Well, and I will say the ambition to do it has been confirmed, and the actual project has been confirmed, but whether it will actually work, that remains to be seen.
Now, I've seen Tilka drones come and go. They're basically expendable at this point. Let's look at some of the previous circuits that have held Grand Prix. India was a circuit that basically only held what, one race?
3.
1 or 2 races?
3 races.
3. Korea was an absolute bust. Istanbul, unfortunately the best Tilka-drome is now a car park in Istanbul. Like, the list goes on and on. I honestly think Herman Tilke either needs to retire because he's getting rusty after he butchered Hockenheim, or, and hear me out on this, they actually keep the Formula One World Championship at Interlagos, where it belongs, and not try to create a circuit that's basically a pipe dream.
The weird thing is,
Anyway.
quite a few of those Tilkedromes you just mentioned, I actually quite like. Sorry. Like, the new Hockenheim, I think that the only reason it's got the hate it has got is because of what it replaced. I actually think it's a really quite nice and well-designed circuit. And I know that's not a completely popular opinion. And Istanbul was great.
I agree with you. Oh yeah, Istanbul was my favorite of the Tilkedromes, honestly. But I honestly, like, I'm a traditionalist. I want something that has gravel traps that can punish a driver for going off. None of this, like, track limit, like, none of this going all the way to the tire barrier, like, 20 miles away, and then coming back onto the racing line, Coda, but, like, none of that. I want something that can punish the drivers for going off.
Nürburgring Nordschleifer.
Well,
Only one gravel trap there, Jack. Only one gravel trap there. Don't wanna
only
die,
one
though.
gravel trap, and yeah.
Anyway, before we move on, Freya Edwards commenting in the chat. We all know that I'm a big Verstappen fan. No, really. But she's a big Verstappen fan. She thinks that if Max has controlled the calendar, if the Zandvoort race actually does happen, that will give him an enormous ego boost.
That's a good point. That really is.
My personal opinion, I think an ego boost is the last thing he needs. Um,
I totally agree, and I also agree that, let's face it, the only reason they won a Dutch Grand Prix is because of Max Verstappen. It's good. It's good. What's the word? It's good.
publicity.
Zandvoort is a better GT and touring car track than it is a Formula 1 track. Let's face it. Like, it's better suited to, it's better suited to Blancpain, it's better suited to WTCR and DTM. That's it. And the Formula 3 Masters. That's it. That's basically it.
I'm just surprised we never got a Finnish Grand Prix back in the Hakkinen-Raikkonen era.
Anyway, I think we should move on now because this was some interesting news that came out during the week. Pato O'Ward has been signed to the Red Bull Junior team.
Get in there.
I'm skeptical about this.
I'm on Caitlin's side. Get in there. Absolutely get in there. I'm so happy for him. And I'd actually love to see him in a Formula One car. Like even if he doesn't make a career out of Formula One and excels in IndyCar, which I really hope he does, I'm actually glad this has happened. So
Okay, so we've heard Jack's side of the story. Chris, why are you skeptical of it?
Because of the way Helmut Marko treats his drivers.
Very true.
That is basically primary. He doesn't treat his drivers well at all. Let's face it. Like he has it in his head that he basically picks like. And I was saying to Caitlin, I think last night or the night before, in a meeting, that I fear that he's being used as a bargaining chip for Dan Ticktum.
Do you know...
That is quite convoluted by the sounds of it.
I have a theory that this is all because the Red Bull driver program went through a period of producing some fantastic drivers. You know, they had Vettel, they had Ricciardo, they had Verstappen, who all went on to win races. I think they suddenly expect all of their drivers to be instantly brilliant now. And when they're not...
Which has not been the case.
Yeah, when they take a little while to get going, I think one of the reasons that their drivers don't improve is because they don't help them. They write them off from the start. You know, they say... Or they like, as soon as a driver starts underperforming, they think, you know... How quickly can we fire them, basically?
The Brendan Hartley effect.
Absolutely. Hartley effect, the Daniel Kvyat effect, and hopefully not the Pierre Gasly effect.
It's just how quickly can we fire them? And, yeah.
One actual case that, one case that proves this is the unfortunate case of Jaime Alguersuari.
Okay.
Who was basically chewed up and spit out.
I think he was brought in far too young, in my opinion.
And wasn't given a chance to grow. Like, it basically... How do I just... honestly, I just want Pato O'Ward to be careful with the Red Bull Junior team. It's like I tell my friends if they are starting to see someone new. Just be careful.
Well, the thing is, though, right? So Pato O'Ward's in the Red Bull Junior program, but the thing is with Pato O'Ward is that he's so well recognized in the Indy world, in the IndyCar racing world, that even if Formula One doesn't work out for him, I think he'll land on his feet.
True, but like, I think honestly, if he goes to Formula One, it'll be just like when not Montoya, but like you look at some of the like Sebastian Bourdais, for instance. He ran in Formula One after winning 4 straight Champ Car championships. Like he won 4 straight championships in the Champ Car World Series, and then struggled in Formula One, and was fired at Toro Rosso.
So, I think though that Pato O'Ward is amazing, and honestly, I can actually see him doing well in Formula One. If there's something he might struggle with, I think it's the fact he probably hasn't raced at a lot of these tracks before. But in terms of potential, he absolutely has the potential to be a Formula One driver. But yeah, it may well take him a little bit of time to get up to speed, and Red Bull doesn't allow that. So we'll have to see exactly how it goes. Interesting thought relating to what Freya said just now in the YouTube chat. She says, shouldn't we be controlling the calendar based on the tracks that will give good races for fans and the championship rather than the drivers who will leave at some point?
Here.
Well, I've remembered the word I was looking for earlier, which is marketing. It's good marketing to go to a track which is going to produce, it's going to produce a crowd, and we absolutely know that the Dutch Grand Prix certainly would. So from the FIA standpoint, they are pretty much doing everything that, of course they're going to do. It's fine. Like, that's their job. But at the same time, it should at least be feasible. Like, yeah, I'm all for a Dutch Grand Prix if there's a circuit that can take it. Zandvoort is absolutely not a circuit we should be racing at. And yeah, okay, it'd be a good idea to have a Dutch Grand Prix, yes, but not at Zandvoort.
Anyway, moving on to some Super Formula news. Real Racing has dropped Tristan Charpentier from its...
Carpentier.
Of course,
Carpentier.
I'm going to guess that he is from France.
Maybe
I
originally.
believe he's Canadian.
Yeah, his
Maybe
family
he's-
was probably originally from France.
Okay, so then that would make him French Canadian. So
French Canadian.
French.
We're calling French people French from now on, by the way. So Romain Grosjean is a Frenchman. TA, my apologies. I thought I'd have it easier there, but apparently not. Anyway, so they've dropped him from their Super Formula lineup for being too slow and crashing, which is never a good thing. And he will be replaced by series veteran, and because I haven't watched this series, I haven't heard the name before, so bear with me here.
I've got the pronunciation if you want me to.
I'm going to say that's Kodai
Kudai Sokakoshi.
Koshi. Okay, thank you for that, because I think I was on course to get that wrong. So, I think they've dropped Tristan.
The fact that they've dropped him after the first race raises some eyebrows. Like,
well, he was 2 seconds off the pace in qualifying, didn't do very well in the race, and crashed out. So
Was he the
that's
driver?
not too-
Was he the driver who plowed straight on at 130R?
Yes.
it
Yeah, I
was.
thought so. They said.
Yeah.
I think personally that
Didn't they say it was like his second season in car racing or something?
yes.
That's certainly too. That's
That's
certainly
too early
too.
for Super Formula.
Absolutely, it is. So yeah, I'm not surprised.
And I think personally there must be some financial issues as well with Carpentier, because I guess maybe the check bounced, which tends to happen with drivers of a certain, how should I put this, monetary talent grade.
Okay.
Monetary talent grade, TM.
Ding.
It's good terminology, actually.
Ding.
Well done.
Monetary talent grade. Spread it like wildfire.
Have it on
But,
next week.
I think personally, like, I'm not sure if maybe the check bounced or what happened, but it's a shame, but I guess it's unfortunate that he's out of a ride, but he didn't really impress. So hopefully Tsukakashi can do better.
Maybe he should actually try some Formula 4 before they put him in a rocket ship.
Basically, a Japanese F1 car.
Yeah. Anyway, I think we should move on. This story also kind of relates to Japanese racing news. Jenson Button now holds yet another record on the Mount Panorama circuit. Of course, being Bathurst, in case you don't know the proper name for the track. And this record is actually for front-wheel drive production cars.
Really?
And he actually did this in a Honda Civic Type R. And I've written here, insert VTEC joke here. Once the VTEC actually did kick in, he was able to set a time of 2 minutes 35.207, which actually apparently would have put him in 5th place in the 6 hours of Bathurst, which I think was the production car race that happened there recently.
With our favorite Suzuki Swift.
Which was nearly my first car, I should add, but I went for my trusty Fiat 500.
Did you? Do you have a Fiat 500?
500.
Oh my goodness, I've got to see that. Yikes, I love the Fiat 500. Sorry, Jack. Yeah,
I'll
go
send you a
ahead.
photo afterwards, but if you guys really would like, I will do a road test of the car later.
Do it.
I'll do a
One
road
like
test of the
equals-
Fiat 500.
Just remember, 1 like equals 1 vlog of Jack driving a Fiat 500.
That means you
I'm
got to do
terrible.
6 vlogs so far.
I am terrible at vlogs because I actually have so much footage from last year's Newcastle 500 where I was vlogging, I did all that sort of stuff. First of all, I looked back at it and I wasn't really into vlogging, and secondly, I just did nothing with the footage. But I still can do something with the footage, so if you would like to see A, a road test of a Fiat 500, and B, the vlog from the Newcastle 500 last year, both coincidentally with 500 in the title, I just realised.
Yeah.
Below, message me, do whatever. I'll probably put some polls on Instagram or something, and you'll get hopefully both of those.
Indy
So yes,
500 when?
Indy 500 when? Well, if somebody would like to buy me a plane ticket and get me to the US, I would happily do an Indianapolis 500 vlog, because that might actually be the only opportunity I get to see an IndyCar race live all season. Thank you, Fox.
But I can see you're not bitter.
No, I'm not bitter at all, Fox. Anyway,
Foxtel.
before I burst a blood vessel, I think we should move on, because there's some WEC news. AF Corsa will return to LMP2 in the next season of the WEC. They will run a Dallara P217 with help from Velobra Corsa.
Veloba course.
Yes, Veloba course. Thank you very much. This is the first time they've run in LMP2 since 2014. And
Sergio
They-
Cernigiato, Andrea Bellicchi, and Roberto Lacorta, the managing director for the sponsor, the Pharma Nutra, which is the sponsor of the car, which sponsors the car with the brand Satilar, will be the 3 drivers on board the
what
on
does
board that
Satilar-
Dallara.
What does Satilar actually do?
Satilar is a brand under the Pharma Nutra company web. It is a brand of pharmaceuticals.
Right. Okay.
So basically it'll be the 47 car that ran at Le Mans last year and went flying hands of Cernigiato down the Mulsanne Strait, I believe.
So I believe they will still be running the Ferraris, because it would be a shame to see the Ferrari.
Oh yeah, no, they're still gonna run the Ferraris. It's just they're gonna run
LRP2
it's
as
like they did
well.
before. It's like they did with SMP in
Right.
2014 when they ran that LMP2 Orica and those Ferraris.
Right, okay.
It's sort of a spin-off.
Okay. Now, moving on to our next story. Now, who fancies themselves a photographer?
Oh, Jack, you know me. You know I'm a
You're a
photographer,
bus
but
spotter, of course.
I am too.
Well, Sauber Esports, a photo competition, which and so you can check that out on their Instagram page. And what this entails is that photo of an Alfa Romeo in any game and be eligible for the competition. Post it on Instagram with a certain hashtag, which eludes me. So that will be on the Sauber Esports Instagram page. And you mentioned, if you take a photo of any Alfa Romeo in any racing game ever, then you are eligible for the competition.
Yikes. That's gonna be...
So I am actually thinking about cracking out the old PlayStation 3 and taking a photo of the Alfa Romeo Brera on Test Drive Unlimited 2.
The hashtag, by the way, is Sauber Esports.
Thank you very much.
I looked it up so you didn't have to.
Sauber, did you know a Monegasque driver drove for them? And this next story actually relates to Monaco, but not necessarily to Sauber. So, who would like to tell us about what
take
Princess Charlene is doing?
Princess Charlene of Monaco has been named the official starter for the 24 Hours of Le Mans, which means she will be waving the French tricolor at the start of the race.
Excellent. And would you like to also tell us about an Australian GT story that's also just happened?
Yeah, which I found out last night while doing the research for this. A certain V8 Supercar Virgin Australia Supercar champion, I keep saying V8 Supercar for some reason, Jamie Whincup will be making his Australian GT Series debut at Phillip Island, driving for Scott Taylor Motorsports in a Mercedes-Benz AMG GT3 at the Phillip Island race, which is coming up within the next month, I believe. And he will be driving with he'll be driving with Yasser Shaheen in the 777, the Bend Motorsport Park sponsored Mercedes. And I'm looking forward to actually him driving in Australian GT because he's very solid behind the wheel of a Mercedes.
Okay.
And also there was some news that came on Thursday involving Mark Patterson. Mark Patterson, of course, who drives for Algarve Pro in the European Le Mans Series. He had a testing accident.
Oh no.
He did, yes. He has suffered a fractured pelvis in 3 places.
Ooh.
According to Sportscar 365. Apparently, he lost control. According to Sportscar 365, he lost control of the number 25 Algarve Pro Racing Orica 07 on the front straight, which saw the South African's car slam into the team's sister Orica of Tak-Sung Kim. The impact resulted in a fractured pelvis in 3 places, according to the 67-year-old, who is recovering in a Monza hospital. And unfortunately, that means, and he said, quote, in his email newsletter, quote, "The sad and disappointing result is that I obviously won't be racing this weekend or at the holiest of racing shrines, Le Mans, next month."
Oh no.
Yeah, so, apparently So we hope that Mark Patterson has a very speedy recovery, and he's actually a pretty good driver too. I saw him racing. I watched him racing Grand Am years ago, driving for Michael Shank, and he was a pretty solid driver in his own right. And yeah, we really hope that we send our best wishes to Mark Patterson on his recovery.
So anyway, I don't necessarily want to end on a sad note, so I won't.
Excellent.
The good news is, expect a Fiat 500 road test. I'll hopefully get around to that, and hopefully as well expect 500 vlog from last year if I can get round to making it. And on that note, it is time
Peer
to
pressure hates.
on that note, it is time to end. I've been Jack McKenzie, and I apologize for the fact that my tongue has been an absolute knot today. See, I'm a big believer in enthusiasm than actually forming cohesive sentences.
Aren't we all?
Today has been the wonderful Chris Whitfield and the equally as wonderful Caitlin Penny commentary. I believe she deserves some love.
Thank you.
Thank you to at Freya Edwards. Sorry, just Freya Edwards actually helping write articles this week. Thank you to SRA Smoking Puppy as well for also writing some stuff for us as well. Thank you to at Finnicar on Instagram who does all the graphics for this show, and they are very, very beautiful. So thank you again to him. The link to all these pages will be in the description below, as well as some cool stuff in there as well. Thank you very much for tuning in. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.